After more than 7 months of Israel's devastating war on Gaza, which has killed at least 35,562 Palestinians, the chief prosecutor of the world's top criminal court has sought arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his Defence Minister Yoav Gallant. They are accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Netanyahu says it's a complete distortion of reality. The ICC prosecutor also wants arrest warrants for 3 Hamas leaders for the October 7th attack in southern Israel, a move that has been denounced by Hamas. Osama bin Javed begins our coverage.
Starving children is a crime. Killing civilians is a war crime. And willfully causing suffering is also a criminal act. Those are the top 3 reasons the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has cited for requesting arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defence Minister Yoav Gallant.
I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defence Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine.
Several Israeli ministers have denounced the allegations of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The Foreign Minister, Israel Katz, says it's a historic disgrace and that a special war room has been set up to counteract the decision. But not everyone agrees.
Israel will again protect itself with this wall of the whole world is anti-Semite and the whole world is against us, and it will unite again the Israelis in a very nationalistic, even more nationalistic wave, and everyone will feel so just and such a victim by this evil decision. I think it's a just decision.
The ICC prosecutor is also seeking arrest warrants for Hamas political and military leaders Ismail Haniyeh, Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif.
There are reasonable grounds to believe that these 3 Hamas leaders are criminally responsible for the killing of Israeli civilians in attacks perpetrated by Hamas and other armed groups on the 7th of October 2023.
The Palestinian group says the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant are several months too late. And rather than equating the victim with the perpetrator, ICC should order the arrest of all occupation officials who gave orders and the soldiers who carried out the crimes.
If we want to be honest, we should be looking at what it is that the government, the Israeli government, has been doing, the orders that it has issued to its soldiers, and it's issued orders to its soldiers to carry out a genocide. If this court is to have any credibility, it should be going after the people who are committing genocide rather than just simply trying to play this game of both sidesism.
For months, the ICC prosecutor faced criticism as the carnage in Gaza unfolded. Karim Khan's critics, even at the UN Security Council, criticized what they saw as his inaction to hold Israel accountable.
Ceasefire. Ceasefire.
Israel's allies, including the United States, also expressed anger ahead of Monday's ICC announcement. Target Israel and we will target you, said a warning letter from a dozen US Republican senators. They threatened to cut funding and sanction ICC staff and their families. This is Gaza today. And the mere talk of arrest warrants is unlikely to have an immediate impact on the war which has killed more than 35,000 Palestinians and displaced millions more since October. Osama bin Javed, Al Jazeera.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting within Israel, so we are reporting from the Jordanian capital, Amman, where Imran Khan is standing by. So, Imran, the Israeli Prime Minister is, simply put, furious that the chief prosecutor of the ICC is requesting an arrest warrant against him. What did Benjamin Netanyahu say?
Well, there's one key thing that he said, which is now being echoed across the Israeli political spectrum. It doesn't matter whether you're the leader of the opposition like Yair Lapid, or whether you are a staunch Netanyahu supporter, or whether you're a member of the war cabinet like Benny Gantz, like the Defence Minister Yoav Gallant. And I think this is the message that is being pushed right now. This is the key sentence. The absurd and deceitful warrant of the prosecutor in The Hague is aimed not only only against Israel's Prime Minister and Defence Minister, it's aimed against the entire state of Israel. And that last bit is absolutely crucial. Cyril, I could spend about an hour going through all of the response coming out of the Israeli political echelons, but it's all pretty much similar. The reaction is one where everybody is saying this isn't about individuals anymore. This is an attack against the state of Israel. That's the messaging that's coming through. Everybody seems to be lockstep behind that messaging. It's even being echoed in the media. Why are you making a false equivalence between us and Hamas? This is just absolutely absurd. It's an attack against Israel. That's a direct quote from an editorial that I read this morning in an Israeli newspaper. So there you go. That's where we're at right now in terms of reaction. However, response is going to be the real litmus test of how Israel deals with all of this. Now, it's worth pointing out again, Israel isn't a signatory to the ICC, but it is taking this incredibly serious. There have been meetings, strategy meetings, meetings with legal experts from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from the National Security Agency. That's how serious they are taking all of this. And we're beginning to see the response come through. Not only is it about blaming Israel, deflecting blame from Israel and saying this is ridiculous, but it's also about reaching out to allies. President Joe Biden last night said Israel isn't committing a genocide in Gaza, and that's something key. That will be something that the Israelis can hang on to and point to and say, look, if the President of the US has said it, then clearly we're not committing a genocide. So that's really where we're at right now. It's all about the messaging, it's all about the reaction, but the response is what's going to be key, and that's going to be coming swiftly and over the next few days.
Imran Khan, reporting from Amman, the Jordanian capital. Thank you very much for all that context there, Imran. We'll speak again. Just a reminder that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting in Israel, so that's why we're reporting from Amman. Now, this issue of equivalence between Israel and Hamas is what I want to get into with Eric Witte, former ICC official who served as an advisor to the former president of the International Criminal Court. He joins us from Brussels. So there is this symmetry in Karim Khan's statement. He goes after Hamas crimes, goes after Israeli crimes, and he ends his statement with, quote, international law must apply equally. The lives of all human beings have equal value. This symmetry is very noticeable, and it can't be an accident. I wanted your thoughts on that.
Yes, thank you. It's important to understand what that symmetry means and what it doesn't mean. What the prosecutor has said is that the law applies equally to everyone, that both sides in this conflict, as in other conflicts before the International Criminal Court, are bound by international law, and their actions will be equally scrutinized. What it doesn't mean is that the prosecutor is saying that the actions on one side are necessarily the equivalent of actions on the other side, or that the two sides are equal in nature in some way. It just means that both sets of actions will be measured not against each other, but against the law.
That's really interesting. And that's why I wanted to raise this topic with you, because you've been hearing our correspondents. Hamas, Biden, Netanyahu have all slammed the ICC, and they all seize on this point, saying that Hamas and Israel are not equivalent. In Israel's telling of it, of course, it's that we're acting in self-defense. You can't equate us with Hamas. In Hamas's telling of it, they're saying we're being slaughtered. Victims can't be equated with their executioners. So both of them suggesting that the prosecutor has got the plot completely wrong, and that somehow negates his request for an arrest warrant.
Those arguments are really a diversion, whether intentional or not, from the core issue. The International Criminal Court is not looking at the justification for fighting on either side. It is not saying that Israel does not have a right to defend itself. In fact, the prosecutor noted in his statement that Israel does have a right to defend itself against attacks. It's not a judgment on the right of the Palestinian people to pursue their freedom. The question is, what means have the two sides used? And not as states, but individual criminal responsibility. This is about the actions of individuals and not necessarily the state involved. It may have political implications for those states, and of course, it has great political meaning, the impact of this. But what the court is really looking at are the actions of the individuals. What are the specific allegations? Can it be proven that the named individuals have perpetrated these acts?
Yeah, this is really interesting because what it tells us, listening to you, is that both Hamas and the Israeli response totally and perhaps deliberately missed the point, right? Because the point is that actions of certain individuals do not comply with international law, regardless of a bigger narrative that they may want to frame or shape in any way. There are illegal actions, according to Karim Khan, that have been committed by both the Israeli leadership and the Hamas leadership. Was this perhaps this sort of symmetrical 50-50 almost presentation of the request for arrest warrants? We said it was likely intentional by Karim Khan. Was this, you think, the only way for him to move ahead with the case?
I think it likely was. I think it's important. There's been tremendous suffering on both sides. And it's important to think about the victims on both sides. The hostages who are still in custody, the families of those killed and missing in Israel, the Palestinians who have been subjected to starvation, the allegation is that they've been specifically targeted as a civilian population by Israelis leaders. I mean, there's just been massive suffering, and we see it play out on our television screens every day. And it's impossible to compare the two. But what we can say is that victims on both sides are deeply deserving of justice, of accountability, and that the broader international community has an interest here in seeing standards upheld, that there are standards even during wartime. Even if you feel your cause is justified, even if that cause is justified, it doesn't mean that you can use any means whatsoever to pursue that cause.
Eric, let me put it this way, and I'm circling around the same point here, is if Karim Khan had gone after just one side, Hamas, or even just gone after both sides, Hamas leadership, Israeli leadership, but separately, different moments in time, wouldn't he inevitably have been accused of bias? And wouldn't his case inevitably have lost credibility?
I think that was a real danger here, yes. I think it was important for him to show that that he was scrutinizing the actions of leadership on both sides of this conflict.
All right, Eric Witte, thank you so much for joining us. I have so many questions for you. We will speak again next hour. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.